Hi there, welcome to Long Distance Review, and on this week's review I'm going to look at the new album from punk stalwarts AntiFlag. Now AntiFlag are political activist punks, and they were formed way back in 1988. I'm not going to trawl through their entire history because there's a lot going on, but just the main points really. Although they were formed in 1988, they didn't really release an album until 1996, where they released their debut album, Die for the Government. And since then, they've steadily released albums on varying labels. Like many punk bands, they signed to Fat Mike's label, Fat Wreck. And that was probably their breakout album on that label, the album Underground Network in 2001. Since then, they actually signed to a major label, RCA, and they released 2 albums on there. And since then, they kind of bounced around label a little bit, ended up on Spine Farm Records, and this will be their 12th studio album. AntiFlag have always been very, very vocal in their support for left-wing politics, and certainly in support for activist groups such as like Greenpeace, Amnesty International, Occupy Territory, and they've in turn received support from these groups. The lyrics have always been focused on issues, especially anti-far-right politics, anti-neo-Nazism. They've focused on corporate greed. They've highlighted issues in the world of fascism and racism. And they've been very anti-war at times as well. And this could well have been detrimental to their career. But they've never shied away from that. And they've always remained a sort of refusal to be censored and refusal to conform to anyone else, which I can only applaud, and in essence, that's a great punk spirit to have. At the time, in the world at the moment, punk is kind of ready for a revival. If you look at the political landscape at the moment, especially here in the UK where I am, there's a huge split in political views, and over in America at the moment, it's pretty much the same. So really, we are in need of a punk revival. We are in need of bands and artists to highlight these important issues in the world. And this album kind of pulls no punches in its title and its cover artwork. It kind of says exactly what it is. It's called 2020 Vision. It's the vision of the world in 2020. And also look at the cover, it's Donald Trump. Album opener, Hate Conquers All, is a raucous punk song, and it really comes out the gates blistering. It's complete with Trump sound bites and is a kind of call to arms to rise against the government. AntiFlag are experts in this, and you're going to be surprised by how good it can be, because this is their 12th album and they effortlessly always rip into the injustices in the world through their lyrics and turn these injustices into fist-pumping anthems. And this album's no different, really. It is a bit of a more return to the punkier sound, not back to the sort of hardcore punk early days they had, but the last couple of albums have been a bit more on the poppier side, let's say, and this does have a bit more punkier edge to it, I feel. But it still does feel a little bit too nice and polished at times on this album. There are a few songs on here which feel a bit too filler. Songs like 2020 Vision and Unbreakable and You Make Me Feel Sick are a bit too fillery for me and a bit too mid-paced. They can feel a bit cliched at times. But there are songs like Hate Conquer All and The Blistering and Nation Sleeps which easily make up for this. And the album highlight for me is a song called Christian Nationalist, which pulls no punches in its sort of ferocious attack against the white Christians in power in the United States, and is all the better for it. They shroud nothing in metaphors, they never have really, and it feels like Just Insane writes punk songs for punk. Here's a clip of Christian Nationalist so you can get a taste of what the band are. When the pace drops on the more acoustic song entitled Unamerican, the lyrics kind of pick up the slack and take over the punk attitude and the punk edge. I sometimes find the lyrics from AntiFlag a bit too obvious and a bit too cliched. As I've said before, they don't really use metaphors, it pretty much is what it is. But he does turn into sort of a fascinating white-collar storyteller on the song Un-American, and it really, really works well. What I will say though is that I don't like ska punk. I never have liked ska punk, and I never will like ska punk. So when album closer Resistance Frequencies comes in with its horn section, I sort of cringe quite hard. It's just not for me. And if I'm honest, it feels a bit too keg party, a bit too pool party for the vibe that they're going for on this album. Maybe that's just me though. I am not a ska punk fan. It feels like at times AntiFlag have missed the boat. They must have seen their peers in the late 90s, early 2000s, bands like Rise Against, Sum 41, early Good Charlotte, and the all-conquering Green Day, sort of go past them and go on to huge success. And in many ways, this sound is probably sort of 10 years overdue. But like I've said before, punk is ready for a revival, and where better place to start than on an AntiFlag record. This is a fine political punk album. I think in terms of AntiFlag's discography, it's a decent one. There are a good 4 or 5 great songs on here, cracking anthems on here, and I think that's decent. If you are a fan of bands like Rise Against, AFI, Morning Glory, bands like that, you will find something to love on here. So let me know what you think of the album. I think it's decent. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and I'll be back soon with another review. Thanks for watching.